Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. You can watch the show on the ThunderCast YouTube channel and listen to the audio versions anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. We are freaking everywhere. Russ got a big game on tap. It's the Sun Belt opener for the herd in this 2025 season. They pushed the record even last week with a convincing win late against Middle Tennessee State. It was nice to see some of that. If you guys missed it, we recapped that game just a couple of days ago. If you didn't get to watch it all, or if you missed everything or nothing and just want to hear what we had to say about it, that episode's been up. Big breakout game for Carlos Del Rio-Wilson. Big breakout game for Floyd Lacey. Lots of questions are starting to get answered for this herd team in a really great time, because the Sun Belt Conference slate is starting. Russ, you got anything you want to say about this one before we really get into it?
Yeah, kind of a little juxtaposition of where we thought we might be going to, and this was brought up by Region Review when they were on our Getting to Know episode. We expected 9 months ago that with this possibly being on the schedule, or knowing it was going to be on the schedule, that this could be a big rematch between the two teams. And then we had the roster turnover that we had, and then Louisiana they got Walker Howard, the hometown boy, coming back that was a 5-star quarterback and adding on to the team that they thought they would have. And they're 1-3 after non-conference play. They're decimated with injuries, but the production wasn't there even without the injuries. So it's just totally different for both teams than what we expected. Marshall's 2-2. They're 1-3. None of that matters for the conference schedule, but going into the game, you have to know that both of these teams want this game so badly. Huge implications when you're looking at the conference records, but also for that momentum. Marshall could win 3 in a row to then go back home after the bye week for 2 matchups at home against really good teams. Louisiana's 1-3. If they lose another game, you have to imagine that fan base is not going to be happy. So must win for both teams.
Yeah, they're already not happy. They're already they get pretty vocal. For some reason, I see a lot of Louisiana fan tweets. I don't follow a lot of them, but they all seem to not all, but a lot of them hit my timeline, and they are not happy right now with the situation in Lafayette. How could you be? You were a West Division champion last year, and it really started going downhill for them in the conference championship game. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But before we get into any more, God bless it, we got to pay some bills. Give me a word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
Now we can talk some football. Let's get into this Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview, as the aforementioned Sun Belt Conference opener for Marshall and for Louisiana is going down on Saturday, September 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN Plus if you're not making the trip to Lafayette, Louisiana. Marshall is 1-2 all time against Louisiana. It feels like we've played a lot more than we have, because we've just played a lot in a short amount of time. But the herd is 1-0 at Cajun Field. The ESPN Power Index sees this one as a coin flip, which is kind of surprising to me, given the fact that they have been bitten heavily by the injury bug, and we are off of a really dominating offensive performance against Middle Tennessee State. 51.6% chance to win for Marshall as the road team, but Vegas sees Marshall plus 2.5 with an over-under of 47.5. So it puts me in that 25-22 type score. Again, surprising to me based on what we've seen the last 2 weeks out of this herd offense against a team that is kind of reeling right now. I got nothing like this is not smack talk, but the numbers don't really lie. And when you get into them, at this point in the season, everyone has played that overmatched top 25 team. So you can go ahead and stop with if you take this game away, because we've all played 3 other teams right now, and we played 3 teams we should have beaten. We only beat 2 of them. They played 3 teams they should have beaten, and they only beat 1 of them. So you kind of are who you are right now. Both teams are kind of are who they are. You mentioned this in the outset. Marshall's kind of rolling 2 in a row. Louisiana's kind of not. These are 2 teams trending in different directions right now, and both really, really want this game. Louisiana 1-3 on the season, losses to Rice at home in the opener. Then they went on the road, lost to top 25 Missouri. Then they got themselves a win over McNeese State mixed in there. And then just last week, they lost to Eastern Michigan. And that one was probably the one that stung the most.
Yeah.
Again, no disrespect to Eastern Michigan. They just haven't perennially been a powerhouse for a very long time.
And that was their only victory so far on the year for Eastern Michigan as well, was beating Louisiana. So it wasn't like they've had a good start to their season.
So I mentioned this before. This is a rematch of the Sun Belt Conference Championship game from 2024, that saw the Herd go down there and just absolutely dominate Louisiana Raging Cajuns team on their home field, 31-3, to see the Herd hoist the trophy as the away team. And of course, the weird thing about that is that this will mean Marshall will play 2 consecutive Sun Belt Conference games against Louisiana at Cajun Field. Now, of course, it spans across 2 seasons. So that's a weird thing. Injury notes, we've been waiting kind of all day. This is Wednesday evening, by the way, and we were waiting, since this is a conference matchup, to see if the official injury reports were going to drop. And so far, I haven't seen them. And we've been trying and monitoring, and they're just not on social media yet. So we're going to have to do what we can do. We don't know who's in and out officially for the Herd. We don't know who's in and out officially for Louisiana, but we can speculate pretty well. We do know that Louisiana will be without their top 2 wide receivers coming in. They have a new number 1 now based off of last week. I got those stats in a minute. One of those top 2 wide receivers was also their number 1 kick returner, so they're going to fill that in the special teams game as well. And they're going to be without 2 of their top offensive linemen in Jamarian Gooch and George Jackson. They're expecting to get someone back. I didn't write his name down, but big guy, like 6'8", 350 something. So that will be a huge boost to their offensive line if indeed that player is available to play. But nonetheless, without 2 of their top wide receivers and 2 top offensive linemen, and of course Walker Howard is out as well, and they've got a different quarterback playing that he's played for the past 2-3 games, so it's not his first start. But still, you mentioned it, the injury bugs hit him, and it's hitting them pretty hard in some areas where you really, really can't afford to be thin. So that brings me to this. Russ, what's your take on this trip to Louisiana and this Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview?
Well, Raging Review also said that now 4 out of their top 5, the starting 5 offensive line going into the season, 4 are now on the injured list. So it's just been tough, man. But going down there, I'm looking forward to the trip. It's going to be my first time to ever get to go to Lafayette. Already looking forward to the culture of the tailgating and all that comes with a road trip. The game itself, I'm looking forward to some of these matchups that scream Marshall has a really good chance to do some damage. There are some things that Louisiana does very well that does not favor us, because right now we're not doing very well in that category. So these matchups, as we start talking about this breakdown a little bit more, is kind of what I'm looking at. But right now it looks like they are a team that is reeling, mainly because of the injuries, and that has curtailed their production, which, jumps out at you when you look at this.
Yeah, and before we get into the players in the duration of doing my preparation of this episode, some of those things started glaring out to me too. And you know what? I had heard that there were 4 of their original starting 5 offensive linemen injured. I just couldn't find any more than 2 names. One of those is probably the guy that I was just talking about that they might expect to get back. So I just don't have all the names. But based on what Louisiana is good at, if they are in fact down 4 starters in the offensive line, that ain't going to be good for those dudes. So some of this stuff, you can see why it's a little bit of a coin flip. I don't really understand Marshall being nearly getting 3 points. I don't really get that.
Well, it's down to 1.5 on a lot of the apps now when you look at it. But it started out, it was either 2.5 that it started out, or maybe even 3.5 when it started. But it is down to 1.5, so it is trending down there a little bit more. But that's something I would keep my eye on as we get closer to game time to see how that spread moves, because that might be more after this injury report is released, the initial one tonight, and then the update Saturday morning.
Yeah. So we mentioned that this is, of course, a Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview. And, of course, that's the deadmeatsociety.com, your place, your number one stop if you are either into cooking, grilling, smoking meats, the tailgate culture, all that stuff, or you want to get into that culture. Because there's if you're like me and you're not really I'm not really like an expert or kind of inclined in that way. I love eating good food. I don't know the science very much around smoking meats and things like that. There's a lot of knowledge to consume and to get good at, and that's a great place to start to consume some of that knowledge. So go over to deadmeatsociety.com, sign up for their free newsletter, the Dead Meat Spam, that gets put out every Thursday, full of recipes and tips and tricks and gear reviews and all that. So follow those guys on social media, because they're always posting about cooking and tailgates and all of that kind of stuff. But we've got an extended word that we want to get you from deadmeatsociety.com. So Russ, hit it.
Ever since the discovery of fire, mankind has gathered around it to prepare food. And today we enjoy fellowship with family, friends, and even strangers as we cook and grill. At home on the weekends, at tailgates for sporting events, and just by ourselves to find inner peace. We have holidays centered around the custom of grilling. And now there is a society for those of us who like to grill, who stay up all night to get that smoke ring just right, who share their gifts with others. The Dead Meat Society is here. Flame, family, community, feed everyone.
You're going to have a great taste of some tailgate culture coming up this weekend. I know that. I'm kind of jealous because I've never been able to make a trip to Louisiana at all, much less for a tailgate scene that's probably got food off the hook. Let's talk about some of these players that we're going to have to pay attention to for the Louisiana Raging Cajuns in this Sun Belt opener against the Herd. I mentioned that their quarterback Walker Howard is week 1 starter. He went down with injury. He's been out for the past couple of games. Enter quarterback Daniel Beal, 6'2", 200-pound freshman quarterback, 33 of 69 on the season, 313 yards. That's only 50.7% completion percentage. He's only got 1 touchdown on the year, 2 interceptions on the year, and he's been sacked 4 times. But those 313 yards, Russ, 222 of them came just last week. So he can chuck the football. This isn't a 100 yards a game for 3 games type thing. He had a pretty decent performance last year, but also both of those interceptions came last week as well. Then we're going to feature a pair of running backs, and for good reason. This seems like what Louisiana is going to have to hang their hat on and have been hanging their hat on. It's running back Xylon Perry, the 5'11", 207-pound junior. 45 carries on the season, 336 yards. That's good for 7.5 yards per carry. 3 touchdowns on the ground with a long of 84. He adds 5 receptions out of the backfield for a total of 10 yards. A second running back we're going to talk about is Bill Davis, a 5'9", 235-pound sophomore. He leads the team in carries with 47. He's got 269 yards on the season, good for 5.7 yards per carry. Also 3 touchdowns on the ground with a long of 45. He too adds a couple of receptions out of the backfield for a total of 13 yards. Since we really don't know which wide receivers are going to be playing for Louisiana or are going to be targeted by Mr. Beal, the one that I'm going to feature is the one that was targeted big time last week against Eastern Michigan, and that's Shelton Sampson Jr., the 6'4", 195-pound sophomore. 8 catches on the season, 150 yards. Hasn't found the end zone yet because as a team, they only have 1 passing touchdown. But that's still good for 18.8 yards per reception. All 150 of those yards came, I believe, last week. Isn't that right? No, that's not right. He had like 87 yards.
87 yards.
Yeah, that's what it was. 87 yards last week. Then I'm going to feature a tight end Brock Chappell or Chappelle. I'm not sure when it comes to these Louisiana guys how it goes. 6'5", 245-pound junior, 4 catches, 34 yards on the season. Also no touchdowns, 8.5 yards per reception. Bullet points real quick, Russ. I know you love your stats and your rankings. I'm going to hit you with some of them, and then you'll be able to play right into it. 21.8 points per game for this Cajuns offense. Good for 102nd in the country. 103.8 pass yards per game. Good for 133rd in the country. Here's the good one. 199.2 rush yards per game. Good for 41st in the country. Third down percentage is pretty bad. 34.6% of the time they're converting. That's 107th in the country. And sacks allowed. Now, mind you, this is with a piece of, well, I don't know. I don't really want to call it a patchwork O-line, but their offensive line as a whole only allowing 1.75 sacks per game, but that's tied for 70th. Don't let that ranking fool you. There are a lot of teams that are like a quarter of a sack or half of a sack from being tied for 70th and being tied for 20th. It's a lot in there. But that's my bullet points on this Cajuns offense. What you got for me?
Well, you hit a lot of it there. First of all, Daniel Beal actually came into the game against us in that championship game last year, and that may have been his first collegiate action. I don't know if that was or not. I can't remember. But they will be targeting Shelton Sampson. Their rushing attack, 6.1 yards per carry, and that is good for don't have it up here. Why do I not have that up here? I do. 14th in the country right now. They were much worse passing before this last week. They had 59.3 yards per game through the first 3, by far the worst out of the 134 teams that were listed here. You mentioned the 133 in passing is now 103.8 yards per game. Well, completion percentage, 47.5. That's 133rd. Yards per completion, 8.83. That's 130th. So they run the ball very well. They do not pass the ball very well. They passed a lot better this last game, but the boys at the Raging Review, when they were on here, were complaining about they would get good yardage on the run, and it seemed like the play calling would then just start trying to throw the ball. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of success. So our offense, or their offense versus our defense right now, it looks like our defense is suited to this. We are doing so well against the run on the year, and the things that we've been burned on have been plays in the defensive backfield, and they don't throw the ball as well. So it kind of looks like a really favorable matchup right here, their offense versus our defense.
Yeah, and let's speak right to that, because I happened to jot down Marshall's rush defense ranking. We're ranked 35th in the country in rush defense, just allowing 102.5 yards per game. And there's some really stifling totals last week. Remember, we talked about Middle Tennessee actually beat their season average with, 74 yards?
74 yards.
They had come in averaging 68, but one run was for 71 or 72 yards. And then after that, that was freaking it, Yeah. But you mentioned that Louisiana yards per carry average and what being 14th in the country. That's great and everything, but those two running backs in particular are worrisome because their averages kind of are better than that. You know what I mean? If you've got 45 carries on the season and you're already averaging still 7.5, you're pretty freaking good. So this will be a game within the game right here for the Herd that, it seems like the team's going to run the ball the best in this one, might have the leg up in this one. The big point of emphasis is Marshall's found a passing game in the past couple of weeks, and Louisiana really hasn't found it yet. Made a little bit of noise last week against Eastern Michigan. I can't intelligently tell you how EMU's pass defense would stack up against ours. I have no clue.
It does not look good when you look at their stats where they are, because I kind of took a glance at that too. In most of their stats, they are in the bottom like 120 through 134.
Well, okay. So not very good, but still, it's an opponent you have to respect because you're going into their house and they have gotten us a couple of times, You
mentioned we are 35th on that rushing offense or rushing defense in Louisiana overall, not just the per yards per carry, but 199.2 yards a game. They were 41st in the country 41st. There. So you're looking at strength versus strength there. But when you start looking at third down conversions, they are 34.6%. 107th. Marshall is 32.1%, good for 41st. And in the red zone, it doesn't look good. Marshall is real high up there in sacks still through 4 games, one of which was against Georgia where we did not get a sack. We're still getting 3.5 a game. That's 8th in the country.
Right.
Tackles for loss, we're tied for 25th in the country, 7.2 a game. And they are giving up 5.75 tackles for loss, tied for 91st. So when you look at 1.75 sacks versus 5.75 tackles for loss, they're getting 4 on running backs / wide receivers trying to run the ball or whatever, or a catch in the backfield. Yet they are still rushing for 6.1 a carry every time they catch it. The top 3 running backs, 7.5 yards a carry, 5.7 yards per carry, and 7.2 yards per carry, and they have 7 touchdowns amongst those. So scary that we have to look at that, but that is so far a strength of the Marshall defense. It's going to be strength on strength.
Yeah. It also makes you wonder why the heck they pass so much. If their run game is that, I mean, I could be on their show going, run the ball.
That's what they said on our show, and that is, that's what the stats. I mean, when you're looking at coming into that last game, 59.3 passing yards per game. I mean, the service academies that are running all the time had more. I mean, they were dead last by not a small margin. They were dead last by like 30 some yards. And that was horrible through the first 3 games. Not trying to pile on them, but when you see that their 5-star quarterback goes down and has to have surgery on his torn oblique and is possibly out for the year, but definitely out for a long time, and then you start tacking on all these receivers that are having the injuries and things like that, and they're already not doing well, but they're doing great, amazingly at running back. You've got to just feed them the ball, you would think.
Yeah, you would think. But hold off for one more week if you don't mind, guys.
Yeah.
Let's flip the script of the defense. We're going to feature a couple linebackers first. Linebacker Jaden Duggar, 6'5", 239-pound senior. Holy moly. 32 total tackles leads the team. 15 of those are solo, and he's got a sack. Linebacker Terrence Williams, 6'1", 233 senior. 28 total tackles, 17 of those solo, leads the team, and he also has a sack. Then a couple in the defensive backfield. You got safety Tyree Skipper, 6'2", 207, also senior. I thought one of those guys was a junior. Maybe they were. I don't know. 23 total tackles, 10 solo, 1 pass defended, and then DB Brent Gordon Jr., 5'11", 190-pound freshman, playing really well. 18 total tackles, 8 of those solo, and also a pass defended. This impact plays category through 4 games for Louisiana. You make of it what you want. 6 total sacks as a team. They do have 3 interceptions. One of those was a pick 6, and 1 fumble recovery to go along with 4 passes defended, but no forced fumbles. So take that as you will. Notes for this Cajuns defense. They are allowing 27.5 points a game. That's good for 97th in the country. They can't pass the ball very well, but they do defend the pass pretty well. 160 yards per game through the air they're allowing, good for 22nd in the country. Rushing yards per game, 215.8 rush yards per game allowed. That's good for 127th out of 134 teams. Third down conversion rate defensively, they're giving up a first down 47.1% of the time. That's 122nd in the country. And sacks, they are only getting a sack and a half per game, which is tied for 95th, which is another one of those, just like sacks on the offensive side. You get another half, you're probably going to shoot up to like tied for 60 or something like that. But still, a sack and a half per game, that's pretty bad. Russ, what do you make about this Cajuns defense?
Well, you hit all the notes that I was going to say there, because this is the one that leap out to you. But it was crazy to me that as well as they do against the pass, they have 4 pass deflections.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. Maybe the coverage is so good that they just cause so many incompletions, or they allow the completions but don't miss any tackles and keep the completion yardage way down there. But the completion percentage, Marshall is at 61.7 right now on passing, but Rio-Wilson way higher than that. I got some more stuff on him. I don't want to really get into all that until we get down to the keys to victory, but this defense is geared to stop the pass, but they are not geared much to stop the run. Again, it looks like a very, very favorable matchup for Marshall, even though their defense does really well against the pass, and we started passing a lot better. We got a stable of 5 running backs if everybody's healthy.
Yeah, and even if they're not healthy, we expect to see the return of Tony Mathis any week now. He could very well be active and a go this weekend, and that will be fresh legs that hasn't taken any abuse for the first month of the season. Right?
He came into one game. Yeah, he got four carries. Four carries. Joshawn Barbie being out last week is the one that we really, really wanted to see how this injury report looked, but just a little bit of not even reading into anything. I just think that he's going to make this trip this time.
Well, I'm using my context clues on this one, and
me too,
and my detective skills. And when the fam is posting which jersey should I wear, makes me feel like that Joshawn's going to be playing.
That's kind of where I was going with that. That's. I mean, I don't have any inside info, but that's
pretty inside.
Well, I mean, I didn't personally have that sent to me. I just saw it in public, so it's not inside info. It's just info.
You're right. But that does not bode well for this Cajuns defense if in fact you have a healthy Justin Williams-Thomas. You have a healthy and kind of streaking Mike Allen a little bit. Joshawn Barbie's back on the field. If Tony Mathis returns, Antoine Roberts is still running as hard as hell. And you have to account for Carlos Del Rio Wilson and potentially Floyd Lacey. Guys, it's not going to get easy for this Cajuns defense with a high-octane Marshall running attack. The gross yardage might not blow you away, but, man, when you've got 7 guys that you can rotate, keep fresh. Well, let's call it 5 because Carlos is not really rotating in and out, and Floyd's not always going to be running the ball. But still, this is going to be probably the biggest rushing test from a wholesale standpoint for Louisiana to this point. Missouri, I didn't look at their stats. Missouri might have had a field day running the ball, but I doubt they went 5, 6, 7 deep with game-breaking ability as far as ball carriers go. And that's not even taking into account guys like Judah or anybody else that might get in there late in the game or just, for a series. I got one special teamer to talk about, Russ. We're going to talk about their place kicker, Tony Sterner, 5'11", 178 junior, 6 of 9 already on this young season. with a long of 51 on field goals, 9 of 9 on extra points. So keep a look out there. He's hit from 50 plus already. He's missed one. He's missed one from 40 to 49, but he's got the leg, to hit 50 plus. So in a tight one, that might make a difference. We've got a guy that can hit from 50 plus. A little more shaky closer, but another game within the game.
I just want to go back to the defense. You commented you didn't know how Missouri did. Maybe they went off. I just happened to have looked at that earlier in the season, not for preparation for this, but I had to go back to get the exact stats. You remember Ahmad Hardy that was at ULM?
From ULM, yeah.
Well, he's at Missouri now. He had 22 carries for 250 yards, 11.4 per carry, 3 touchdowns, and a long of 71. Hold on.
But there's more.
Marquise Davis had 20 carries for 113 yards, 5.7 a carry, and a touchdown. And then they had Jamal Roberts, 8 for 46, and then, a couple here and there. 62 carries for 427 yards, 5 touchdowns on the ground. So that distorts their rush defense a little bit, but they still gave it up.
That's right.
They still gave it up.
So,
yes, that's inflating that yards against them on rushing defense, but daggone, man, 427 yards, 250 to one dude, 5 touchdowns on the ground.
Dude, that's rough.
It's not their strength, as you could say.
Yeah, that's rough.
I mean, we went up against Georgia, and Georgia didn't have 427 yards against us on the ground and 5 touchdowns. So.
Oh, wow, that's rough.
Yeah.
I was actually going back while you were talking about I don't know what happened in the past game, and I went, it's like, well, what did Rice do? Well, Rice had their quarterback went 7 of 9 for like 40 yards, so that really helps bring that average down. Last week, the Eastern Michigan quarterback had 220 yards or something like that, and if Missouri piled up 400 and some rushing yards, they probably didn't have a huge passing total. Otherwise, it would have just been a super gaudy. Geez, man, that's rough. Let's get into some keys to victory, though, in this deadmeatsociety.com Marshall football preview. Russ, lay it on me. What's your number one key to victory?
Number one is stop the run. Louisiana is averaging 6.1 yards per carry, good for 14th in the country, getting just under 200 yards per game, as we said. Their passing game's near the bottom of the country. Injuries piling up, make it even worse. Stop the run. You got a good shot at keeping their offense in check.
Yep. Since you brought that up, I'm going to say my number 4 key to victory, which I always like to be a little bit more casual with. It's keep it rolling, right? Keep it rolling. Don't derail that offense when they're rolling. Stay stout on run defense and let Totten keep being Totten. All 3 phases of the game, that will win you this football game. But primarily on defense, it's stop the run. That's where they're going to hurt you if they're going to hurt you. What's your number 2?
Keep improving on third down. Louisiana gives up third down conversions 47.1% of the time, as you mentioned. That is not good. We need to keep extending those drives, giving us a chance to score more points. That is my number 2.
Well, my number 1 overall key to victory was offensive this week for the Herd, and it's even though we found our passing game last week to a bigger degree than the week before, I still think the number 1 key to victory is running the football this week. You got the 127th ranked rush defense going up against the 59th ranked rush offense, who we now know, since you gave me the details, are very susceptible to giving up the big play in the run game. And if Martin, that's still the one thing that we haven't seen out of this Marshall offense is that 50, 60-yard run for touchdown. They have been, I don't want to say content, but our bread and butter has been that 10-yard, 15-yard run to 20-yard maybe type of thing until you get down in the red zone and you get that 8-yard run. I like those kind of drives too because they add up to points. But you've got guys here that look susceptible potentially to giving up the big run play. And I'd like to be on that side of it for once. We gave up the 72-yarder last week again to Middle Tennessee State. Let's get us a couple of big 50, 60, 70-yard runs and put some of our guys over 100, couple of rushers over 100 yards. That'd be great. What's your number 3?
To the shock of no one, we need to improve tackling. Tony Gibson called our first 3 quarters of defense against MTSU gross. That was his words in the press conference. He said those first 3 quarters were gross as a defensive guy, and he went on and on. He said the defense would be made well aware that they need to do a better job of tackling, and we need to do that on Saturday.
I laughed at that because that's what I say a lot. Gross. Not shocking, though. My number 2 overall key to victory was I need to see some disciplined defense this week that focuses on tackling. I don't want to see a highlight hit. I want to see the first the first defender wrap up the ball carrier and let defenders 2 and 3 knock the ever-loving crap out of the guy to get him on the ground. That's what I want to see. That's what will win you this game. Middle Tennessee was able to stay around later in the game after their big chunk plays after the rain delay because of shoddy tackling. And if Tony Gibson's aware of it, you damn sure well know that the players are aware of it.
I'd say it's maybe been discussed a little bit this week.
What's your number 4 key to victory?
Ride Carlos Del Rio Wilson's hot hand. 27 of 34 on the season for 379 yards, 6 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Let me say that again. 6 touchdowns and 7 incompletions through the air. Tack on another 2 TDs on the ground. He has more total touchdowns than he has thrown an incompletion this game. I may have said interceptions a minute ago, but incompletions. Okay. If he performs like that on Saturday, those stats right there and extrapolate that out will be hard to beat. He has played 6 quarters of starting the game. As he's been the starter, the QB1, he has had 6 quarters this season. We have scored 73 points in those 6 quarters. It's looking really good that the offense has done well with him at the helm.
Well, just extrapolate that out, right? You said on the recap, that's 12 points per quarter. So even if he only plays 3 in this game, those averages tell you the herd's going to be around that 36-point mark if those numbers hold true. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I can tell you this. Once again, we are very like-minded in our keys to victory. My number 3, which will this week be my last key to victory, is let the stars shine. Let Carlos Del Rio Wilson do what he's been doing. Let Floyd Lacey do what he did last week and keep feeding me those running backs to beat down this Cajuns defensive line, these linebackers. So later in the game, we've got fresh legs. They might not have fresh defenders. And oh, by the way, 81's still going to be open in the red zone, right?
Yeah.
So just let the stars shine. Don't get in your way this week. Don't derail that offense with some unnecessary trick play. Let's not call one this week. Let's just line up and make them beat us, and let's see how that works.
Before we get into the MVPs, I had one more stat here that I wanted to bring up from the red zone. I try to do these points per trip to the red zone, and Louisiana's defense has allowed points 13 out of the 15 times that their opponents have gotten down there. It's 86.7%. That's good for 80th in the country. That doesn't sound all that bad. 80th when you're looking at 86.7, you would think maybe it's a lot higher. But the points that they're giving up, 10 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. So 12 out of the 15 times somebody's been down there, they've gotten a touchdown. 13 they've scored. They also had the field goal. 5.8 points they are giving up every time someone gets inside the 20 to them. That just screams, if you can get down there, there's a really good chance you can put up a lot of points. Now, yeah. Marshall is giving up 5.36 points. Got to get that way down. But they have given up 9 out of 11, 81.8%. But 4 rushing touchdowns, 4 passing touchdowns, 1 field goal. Just have not given up near the damage that Louisiana has.
And again, that plays right into the strength of this herd offense. They're going to look to run the ball in the red zone. But if given the percentage, last week it was kind of a little out of whack. You get 2 to Toby Payne.
Yeah.
But Del Rio Wilson gets 1 and Mike Allen gets 1, both on the ground. So it's a pick your poison kind of flavor right now for this Herd offense. We mentioned in the recap, week over week, the offensive production has trended upwards, more total yardage put out, and you pointed out also more points week over week. So does the Herd keep that trend going as well and put more than 42 up and put more than whatever 474 or something like that? I don't remember what the total was, but it was quite a bit. Offensive MVP, who you got this week?
It's Rio-Wilson. I think if he puts up anywhere near the efficiency that he did last week, he doesn't have to have 5 total touchdowns to be the MVP. He just has to lead this team and this offense. And to me, I see that. I see more of a stable of running backs still. So I see him being the MVP overall.
Yeah, it starts to feel like already that this is what this season is going to be. It's a running back by committee, unless somebody just starts to go freaking bonkers and just earns more carries through on-field production. But it's Carlos Del Rio-Wilson. He's the hottest of hot hands on this entire team right now. When you're getting national recognition, you're the reigning offensive player of the week in the Sun Belt. You have to go out in your Sun Belt opener and be that type of player, because this is the first one where it truly, really counts, and to where your ranking amongst Sunbelt quarterbacks is going to start to matter in those head-to-head games. It's got to be CDRW. Who's your defensive guy?
I'm going with Cannon Lewis this week. I've not picked him yet, and this just seems like the kind of a game, if they're going to be rush heavy, that he may end up with a lot of tackles. They're getting 6.1 yards per carry, so it seems like they'll get by a lot of times into that second level where we're going to need to have a linebacker. Why not pick the one in the middle? Why not pick somebody that's been impressing everybody through the first 4 games? I'm going Cannon Lewis.
Yeah, unless he shows up on the injury report and doesn't play, he's my defensive MVP as well. If he does happen to show up on the injury report, I've seen rumors floating around there that Jalen Parker might make a return to the Herd. Might be a good guy to take a look at if he's in the middle this week. If not, maybe you look at somebody like Jabril El-Amin. Either way you look at it, I think it's whoever's in the middle. The middle linebacker is going to have to be your primary defensive MVP. But give me Cannon Lewis if he's healthy and is a go. Special teams, who's your guy?
It's Floyd Lacey. I feel like, it's a safe pick to pick Totten anytime, but I'm hoping that Totten doesn't get the special teams MVP because he barely punts. I hope that he only has 1 or 2 this game, and we just don't need to use him. But give me Floyd Lacey, who has been explosive all year long, and he feels like anytime he's going to break one. He did all the damage on the offensive side and nothing on the special team side against MTSU. So if they kick one out there and he's got a little window, he may take it to the house. I'm taking Floyd Lacey.
I think you have to take Floyd Lacey just from the sheer excitability standpoint. Just because nothing really happened last week doesn't mean anything. There was just not an opportunity. But every other time there was an opportunity, he made something happen. And he's my guy until he's not. At this point, I feel bad because I just expect Totten to just give me 45 to 50 yards on average every game. It's like I'm punishing him for being really good, and that's probably what I'm doing, but it's not intentional. I want to see those. I want to see those special teams plays that can lead directly to points, and I know punts can do that too. It just takes a minute. You can flip the field, you can pin somebody deep to put your offense in position to score, but a punt return is points on the board right now. Right. And that's what I want to see. So give me Floyd Lacey as well. How about a score prediction in this one?
I've got this a lot closer and a lot smaller of a score than what this episode and us going over these stats may lead people to believe. I've got 24-17 Marshall. I think that it is going to be a close back and forth game. And I don't look for either squad to just put up crazy bursts of scoring and yardage. Give me 24-17 Herd.
All right. I like it a little bit more high scoring this week. The wild card to me is always going to be the pass game. Does it show up? And until I see it more than just 2 games in a row, when I know I can consistently count on Del Rio-Wilson to give me 250 a game and a couple of touchdowns. We played 2 pretty not great teams. EKU, Middle Tennessee State, they're not great teams. So, Louisiana's probably a little bit better on defense than they are, and their pass defense certainly says so. So that's the X factor in this one. So I look at this and I think this is going to be a battle of two teams that run the ball really well. And you're always one open hole away from that 75-yard touchdown, right? But I still think Marshall comes out ahead in this battle of runners because Del Rio-Wilson's arm is more proven and the pass game for the Herd is more proven than this Louisiana pass game is. Give me 34-24 Herd on the road. Don't like them to surpass that 42-point total, but I like a solid 10-point victory on the road in Louisiana. I think that says something in this rematch of the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. You got any final words in this one?
Just that I'm going to be going down there, and if any other fan is going down there and they want to hear where they should go, how they should go about parking, tailgating, that sort of thing, make sure to check out that episode that we did with, or I did with Rage and Review, Getting to Know Louisiana. It's already out. You can listen to it or you can watch it. Those are usually 20 to 25 minutes long. Had two of those guys on there. They talked a lot about the tailgating stuff. 49 minutes that episode is. So really encourage everybody to listen to that if you're making the trip, because they tell you where to go, what to do, and definitely the places to eat.
Awesome. Well, nobody's going to know like those guys know.
Yeah.
The only thing I've got to say to close this one out is going to remind everybody once again about the 2 passes we have to the Dutch Miller deck for homecoming. And how you win those is to make a donation directly to the Herd Cheerleading Championship Fund. It's a minimum $25 donation. The links are in the descriptions of the last few episodes. All you got to do is click the link, or if you're watching on YouTube, you might need to copy and paste that link. And you're going to open the page, and right at the top, it's going to say Cheer Contributions. That is the Cheerleading Championship Fund. Make a minimum $25 donation. Once you make that donation and Marshall emails you your receipt, take a screenshot of it, DM it to us, or email it to us at ThunderCast.Pod@gmail.com. Once we get that receipt, you are in the raffle. That's it. That's all you have to do. And they're going to draw live on the ThunderCast live episode the week prior for the Old Dominion game. So that way you will know 1 week ahead of time if you won the tickets or the passes to the Dutch Miller deck and the parking pass. Of course, the tailgate's going to be taken care of. You're free to join us if you don't have a tailgate of your own, but you will have a week's notice to know if you have the Dutch Miller deck passes. To $25 donation. Find the links in the descriptions. Make the donation. Text us or DM us or email us that receipt, and you are in. That is it. Russ, I got nothing else. Take us out of here.
Yeah, whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Jack, or whether you see us down at Lafayette, Louisiana, eating boudin, crackling, po' boys, and anything else they're going to be serving us at that tailgate. Whether you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd, it's the ThunderCast. I guess I'm going to be eating whatever's in Wesley Chapel, Florida. All I care about is getting the dub. We'll see you next week. Later.